Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to all our petrol heads, speed freaks, and casual Sunday drivers. We're back like an F1 car hitting DRS, fast, furious, and ready to overtake your evening. Back to the grind as we begin this year of the snake. Tonight, we're diving into the high-octane world of motorsports, a world where speed meets innovation and where Malaysia has quietly been punching above its weight like a Proton Saga in a drag race against a Ferrari. That's not embarrassment you're feeling, it's pride. Joining me tonight is one of Malaysia's finest sports journalists, Harish Diol. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How was your Lunar New Year?
It's good, quiet, but yeah, fun.
Flying solo today. Rizal is off on his monthly Toyota Alphard endurance race.
But that's the closest I can get to him.
That's the closest we can get to him for now. But he'll be back, don't worry.
Yeah.
Before we get started, let's hear from you, Harish. What's your favorite motorsports moment of all time? And please, no spoilers if it involves you secretly rooting for Max Verstappen while wearing a Petronas shirt.
Okay, on a personal note, the fact that I think I mentioned this on the show, but I actually got the opportunity to sit in a car with Mika Häkkinen.
That's a picture that you have behind you.
Yes,
no?
yes, and it was actually a really memorable moment, simply because while he was, pushing the car to its limit, it was the that Mercedes with the gull wings. What is that? The SLS AMG, I think. Yeah, beautiful car.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but the conversation that we had while my hair was like going all over the place. It was good. I mean, it was interesting.
So from Malaysia's legendary Sepang International Circuit to the biggest names in racing, we've got it all for you tonight. Now, let's rev up and get into it. Buckle up, folks. This is going to be a wild one. But first, the news. The recent Kuala Lumpur Hockey Association elections have been postponed for a second time, marred by controversy. Datuk Seri Megati Syariman Zaharuddin, President of the Kuala Lumpur Hockey Sports Education Association, also known as Hock Academy, and his coalition were denied entry to the election venue amid allegations of forgery. Datuk Seri Megati Syariman telah menafikan sekerasnya dakwaan yang dikenakan. Harish, what's going on?
Yang pertama sekali, kalau kita nak dwell into this topic ni, memang sejam pun takkan habis lah. Pasal that's forgery punya allegation dan sebagainya. Actually ada cerita di sebalik cerita tersebut. Tapi memandangkan kita tak mempunyai the luxury of time, just nak bagi tahu satu benda sahaja. Tak sangka Persatuan Hoki Kuala Lumpur yang suatu ketika dahulu memang merupakan lubuk di mana pemain-pemain hoki kita bermain dalam Liga Hoki KL, kini menjadi bahan berita untuk benda yang tak sepatutnya lah.
Yeah, subject of fuss.
It's quite sad, to be honest. Dan pihak-pihak yang tertentu dan pihak-pihak yang berkepentingan pula tidak membuka mulut mereka untuk menyatakan what's next. Kerana takkan you nak buat AGM lepas tu akaun tak diaudit. Itu yang pelik, ya. Dan kenapa nak nafikan hak seseorang affiliate untuk masuk ke dalam mesyuarat tersebut untuk membuang undi sebagai contoh. Adakah ini seperti orang kata more than meets the eye, cewa. Di mana mungkin ada pihak di luar inginkan pihak-pihak tertentu, kemungkinan besar. Namun perkara ni tak sepatutnya berlaku lah. Ni lebih teruk daripada politik lah. So yeah,
very disappointing. Anyway,
sangat-sangat mengecewakan.
We hope they get their act together in the coming days. The coaching brain drain continues. Lee Wanwa berhijrah ke Jepun to coach their doubles athletes. Not the first Malaysian badminton coach the Japanese have brought over. It's a challenge Lee Wanwa says he is relishing. Currently, the top badminton pairings from Japan are ranked 11th and 18th respectively in the world. I'm sure he'd like to change them to both be in the top 10. Yeah. This topic has gotten a lot of attention the last few days, Harish. The question is, Julang atau Kecundang?
Tak, pada saya Julang.
Of course.
Kerana, kita dapat lihat anak-anak Malaysia
On the world stage.
di mata dunia.
Hmm.
Dan menjadi ramai yang inginkan ketagih.
The producer, you have the Standing in
apa
the
orang
Eyes of
kata?
the World. You can
Ya. Lagu Standing in the Eyes of the World ada tak? Standing in the Anyway, so I mean ada negara yang ketagih bakat Malaysia. Jadi pada saya menjawab soalan Mr. Moderator, memanglah apa orang kata? Julang. Sebab tu saya cewa nak nyanyi lagu tu, Julang. So memang patut dijulang. Dan saya harap lebih ramai lagi warga Malaysia dapat memainkan peranan mereka di merata dunia. I mean this is what you call globalization anyway. So I mean if we have the right ecosystem and environment, kita pun boleh tarik mereka kembali ke Malaysia. Betul tak?
That's right.
So apa-apa pun kita ucapkan tahniah kepada Liwan Wah dan semoga
all
berjaya.
the best.
Yep. Tapi bila main dengan Malaysia kasih Chan lah.
Of course.
Spoken like a fan pula.
The last news update we have is Malaysia's medal target for this year's SEA Games in Thailand will be based on total medals won rather than a gold count. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh has confirmed.
So maksudnya kita target 20 medal, 20 gangsa. Okey lah tu. Good. Entahlah. Moving on
To more interesting stuff. Let's move into our main topic of this episode. First up, Harish, let's talk about how Motorsports are basically the R&D lab for the automotive industry. It's like a mad scientist playground, except instead of a lab coat, they're wearing fireproof suits and helmets. Harish, how do you see Motorsports influencing the cars and motorbikes we drive today? And be honest, on your long rides up and down the country, have you ever pretended to be riding a MotoGP bike?
Oh, no, because when you ride a bike like mine, you'd be extremely mindful of the power, because one slight twitch and it goes flying, and I don't want to go flying. And I think it's an age thingy kot. You fikir pasal you dah naik 100 pun you dah fikir pasal anak, pasal bini, pasal mak dekat rumah. So kata okay, tak apalah, slow down lah. So nasib baik motor I ada apa orang kata cruise control. So tekan, ikut speed limit cukup. But anyway, yes, berbalik kepada soalan tadi, memang motor racing ataupun sukan pemotoran ni telah banyak memberi impact kepada tak kira lah kereta dan motosikal. Atau in fact even 4x4s to be honest. Rally and all that. Jadi memang influence dalam teknologi tu memang ketara, walaupun ada kawan-kawan saya sekarang ni yang menyatakan bahawa kereta-kereta zaman ni memang boring kerana dia lebih mengutamakan aesthetics daripada performance. So all my friends yang suka pakai kereta manual dan sebagainya, dia kata
I have friends like that.
Mana nak cari ya?
Yeah, I have friends like that also.
But anyway, sebab tu kita ada kereta-kereta JDM kan.
But that's such a great point, and it's not just about speed, right? Motorsports has given us game-changing technologies like ABS, traction control, and aerodynamics. The kind of stuff that makes your car feel more like you're driving a Batmobile instead of your regular Myvi.
No, that's actually a good point. Kerana kalau kita lihat balik, apabila saya berada di zaman persekolahan, nak masuk ke selepas sekolah, selepas SPM, I think kereta masa tu yang paling top, yang semua menjadi that craze among the youngsters was Satria. Lepas tu kita ada Satria Neo. Dan I think about
still a hell of a car.
24 years later, kita tengok sekarang ni, kalau you lihat Satria atau Satria Neo kat jalan,
you still stop.
You tabik kan?
You still tabik. For sure.
Why? Because kita dia kalau nak kata laju pun tak berapa sangat kalau nak compare dengan kereta lain. Tetapi bagi mereka yang mempunyai kereta tersebut, they swear by the handling. Dia kata handling tu memang mantap. I think it was that Lotus punya touch.
The technology from Lotus.
Dan actually speaking about that, I remember there was this I was doing some Proton Satria GTI. Sorry. While I was doing some research, right, there was an article dekat UK yang dia punya headline dia kata, get Lotus handling for lemonade money with this Proton Satria GTI. Which is true because memang kereta tu memang mantap.
I'm pretty sure that car made it onto Top Gear.
Not too sure, but I think
may have done.
Proton did.
A few times.
Yeah.
Proton has been on Top Gear a few times.
I'm talking about the Saga.
Satria might have. But it's not just about the tech. The
by the way, the Satria also was a good car.
Lovely car. It's not just about the tech. Motorsports are also pushing the boundaries of sustainability.
Yep.
Think about Formula E and the hybrid systems in F1. These innovations are shaping the future of the automotive industry. So, while we're watching those cars zoom around the track, remember, they're not just racing, they're innovating. Dia macam Silicon Valley, but with more tire smoke and fewer hoodies. Speaking of out of this world talent, let's hear from Alex Yong, a true legend in the Malaysian motorsports world, on his thoughts of the Malaysian motorsports ecosystem. The show managed to speak to Alex Yong thanks to one of your friends, one of your reporters.
No, actually 2213's executive editor, Greg Nunes, who's known Alex untuk lama dah.
And we thank you for the opportunity to speak to Alex. Alex, welcome to the show. Firstly, it's an honor. You're a former F1 driver, and at the time, Malaysia was a fixture of the F1 calendar. How do you think having no F1 race in Malaysia has impacted Malaysian motorsports? Sorry? Is that it? Sorry about that. Yeah, intriguing. It's a half glass full point of view, which I don't think the layman will particularly understand the nuances, but that's why you're here. Alex, tell us, if you could change one thing about motorsports in Malaysia, what would it be? And once we have the infrastructure, then comes the talent, right? What do we Malaysians have to do once we have the infrastructure to produce world-class drivers? Mm. And Axel Sports, as you say, your baby, your brainchild, your legacy in the motorsports world, providing a platform for young drivers to hone their skills and maybe, just maybe, be the next Alex Young. Not something a lot of athletes would be humble enough to pursue. What else is Alex Young up to these days? Mm. All right, 1 second. I don't think our listeners are able to hear the audio clip from Alex. Is this something? Just give me a second. I'm checking with the producer. Something. Can we get it done later in the episode? Okay. All right. Welcome back to Alex. Alex's insights, though, they're very invaluable. We'll come back to speak to Alex in a moment. Now, let's shift gears and talk about how motorsports helps brands build their reputation. Whether it's F1 and Ferrari, Yamaha.
The technology, on the racetrack is simply far more different than what happens, with the exception of a Kawasaki. Their H2 series was a real hit, but that's a scary beast. Simply because if anyone knows two wheels, they would know how powerful that bike is. In fact, the H2R is not even street legal. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it does to a certain extent, because I think that's why you see Toyota has got this Gazoo Racing.
Yeah.
So the whole GR series, and then I'm always reminded of what Porsche and the whole Le Mans. Rizal will be here. He will correct me.
Yeah, he'll be correcting.
Yeah, Le Mans advertisement. I don't know whether the producer can pull that out, but I think there was one particular ad that lists down all the years that they've won, with the exception of one particular year, and it goes like nobody's perfect. So that's like ouch, So yeah, absolutely. I mean it does to a certain extent. To some people, or perhaps to the masses, it will. I mean, everyone wants to be driving a winning car.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's also not just about winning races. It's also about showcasing engineering excellence, right? Building a brand that people can trust and people can believe in.
But do you really think so? Because we're shifting away from this consumer. I mean, the rise of consumerism is great in the country, and we're shifting away from the fact that, look, kalau kita lihat macam rally sebagai contoh, kereta sebagai Audi, Volkswagen sebagai contoh, mereka memang gah. Renault, mereka memang gah dalam rally sebagai contoh ya. Tapi kalau you tanya rakyat Malaysia di luar sana, adakah mereka akan beli Renault
because of rally?
Kerana
probably
rally
not because
ataupun
of rally.
kerana senang dapat spare part? Ataupun Audi.
Correct.
Sebagai contoh. Jadi bukan nak memperlekehkan mana-mana jenama lah, tapi inilah hakikat. So mereka lebih rela beli kereta yang mereka tahu alat ganti tu ada dan sebagainya lah. So yeah.
Take Proton for example. Their involvement in rallying and touring car championships has not only boosted their brand image at the time, but also helped them gain international recognition. It's like the underdog story we talked about the last couple of episodes, except with more horsepower and fewer training montage.
I think dalam hal Proton, mereka terpaksa melalui proses tersebut kerana mereka, it's a young company at the end of the day, pada zaman tersebut lah. Dan mereka ingin menunjukkan bahawa jenama tersebut sama taraf dengan jenama-jenama yang lain, walaupun mereka menggunakan enjin Mitsubishi dan sebagainya. So sebab itu ramai menyatakan bahawa the Satria, for example, engine Mitsubishi, handling Lotus, suspension Lotus, and tuning Lotus. Tuning was by Lotus. So it was the perfect match. Dan lepas tu bila terlibat di dalam Proton mereka masa tu ada R3 race research and rally, or race rally research, something like that. So apabila duit dilaburkan dalam, I remember mereka terlibat dalam rally di kawasan Felda. Lepas tu terlibat dalam the endurance race dan sebagainya. So ianya somehow rather orang akan ada that affiliation,
with the
that
brand,
love kepada cinta kepada jenama tersebut lah.
We can't speak about brands in motorsports without talking about Petronas. Their sponsorships in F1 and MotoGP have put Malaysia on the global stage, while also driving advancements in fuel and lubricant technologies. So motorsports aren't just about the thrill of the race, they're also a powerful marketing tool, right? It's like every race is a Super Bowl, and it's just got more tires and less Beyonce halftime shows.
I think you talk about halftime show. There was this suggestion that we should have cheerleaders at our football.
Yes, I saw that.
Hey, it's cheerleaders and not pom-pom girls. Okay, can you please give those girls a little bit of credit? Pom-pom girls.
Have we got Alex ready? Yes.
I'm gonna play that again.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and see whether I can.
I hope it works this time around, so that the viewers will not be just looking at my face, keeping quiet.
We'll try. Alex, welcome back to the show. First question, how do you think having no F1 race in Malaysia has impacted Malaysian motorsports?
One was great for me, as a first F1 driver, a lot of interest, helped my career definitely. But did it help local motorsports? That's very arguable. I mean, we didn't see a whole bunch of other drivers from Malaysia make Formula One, so I'd have to say no. We didn't see growth of racetracks. In fact, we lost racetracks when Formula One came. We lost Shah Alam and Pasir Gudang, but there are more teams. You definitely see some growth in local motorsports since Formula One left Malaysia. F1 is very top end, and the money we need to spend on it only results in money leaving our shores.
Very intriguing thoughts from you. The very glass half full point of view, which I don't think the layman will particularly understand the nuances of. But that's why you're here, Alex. And why don't you tell us, if you could change one thing about motorsports in Malaysia, what would it be?
More venues. We need more venues. We don't have any. The infrastructure here is poor, unfortunately. We got Sepang, which is a fantastic, beautiful track, but we only have one place, and it's very hard for us to get time on it. So for local motorsports guys, it's actually a huge bottleneck to grow motorsports. So we definitely need more infrastructure. More racetracks would be good, at least 3 or 4. I think the Peninsula could take 3 racetracks. East Malaysia could definitely take a couple as well.
And once we have the infrastructure, of course, the next step is talent, right? So what do we Malaysians have to do once we have the infrastructure to produce world-class drivers like you?
Well, it's very easy. I said this. You got a lot of money. It's relatively straightforward to get a Formula One driver again. You just have to find an 8-year-old whose family is willing to relocate to Europe and spend 15 million euros over the next 10 years just to get them to be up to a level to be considered in Formula One, not even to get them into Formula One. But that's very risky, I mean, how many people can you afford to do that with? So that's it for Formula One. If you want to talk about world-class drive, I think we got a few that are on the way to become world-class drivers, if you ask me. What Malaysia has to do is stick outside the box. It has to have an honest appraisal of where we are as a country. And as a country, like most Southeast Southeast Asian countries, we don't have the infrastructure. So we have to be more creative. And that's what we're trying to do with Axel Sports. We're looking to disrupt the industry by going simulator racing. Get our 10,000 hours on the simulator. So that's what we're trying to do. Use that as a tool to coach our drivers so that they can do all their learning on the sim before they even set foot onto a racetrack. That's giving us really good rewards. We're having that's really making a big difference. Obviously, if you can afford to go the go-karting route and race cars at the same time, that's obviously really good. That's also possible. Some of the best race drivers in the world, like Rennie Ras, the Vanderlinders, they all came from touring cars. They didn't come the traditional route through go-karts. So it is possible to get world champions into WEC, to touring cars one day.
And Axel Sports, as you say, your brainchild, your baby, your legacy in the motorsports world, providing a platform for young drivers to hone their skills and maybe, just maybe, be the next Alex Young. Not something a lot of athletes would be humble enough to pursue. But what else is Alex Young up to these days?
Nothing new. I've been doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 4 years, trying to get drivers coached up to be as good as they possibly can through simulator racing and local touring cars. It's very exciting to me personally because we are trying to get world-class drivers, but trying to do it all here in Malaysia, which for me is the right way to do it. Because being around the block and that bit now, being raced all around the world, the countries that just kind of focus on the local activities are the ones that get a thriving industry. Things like Japan, Thailand, even to that. We're trying to just keep farming out and sending money overseas. We got to focus on doing activities which keep money in Malaysia. So, using what we have available, which is a world-class track, Malaysian touring cars and simulator racing, to really try and bring on the next generation. And I think it's possible. I'm seeing now that at least 3-4 drivers who have given the opportunity to go to Super GT or Australian V8s, V8 supercars, or gaming one day WEC. I can see 2-3 drivers who are capable of making on the world stage now. They just need to be given the opportunity.
Really? Upcoming Malaysian racers. Go on, Alex. Why don't you drop some names and what advice you have for them?
Naki Bazlan is the one that stands out for me. He's a pure sim driver. The way he's improved and the way he keeps improving, very good head on him. He's coming along very well. A couple others coming up behind them. And actually, there are a lot of young kids that are coming through. Got a couple 14-year-olds who look very, very promising. And some 19-year-olds also who are, if they can make the transition, I know they'll take off.
Alex Young, you're a legend in every Malaysian's hearts and minds. We miss you and Paula Malay Ali hosting our local F1 show. We wish you all the best and courage. Harish, Alex's insights are invaluable. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, he's basically saying we need to invest in our infrastructure, our talent, and our passion for motorsports. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see a Malaysian driver on the podium at Le Mans or Formula E. Stranger things have happened.
Tapi sebelum tu saya ingin kepada penonton minta maaf kerana audio yang tak seberapa sebentar tadi. Dan jika anda tertanya-tanya kenapa suara Alex sebegitu, ianya kerana kami terpaksa clean up dia punya audio lah. Kerana terdapat banyak background noise, kerana adalah setengah yang menyatakan bahawa yang ni Alex Young ke Steve Darby. So anyway,
we also should say thank you to
tapi terima kasih
Nunes
kepada
well.
Terima kasih kepada Alex Young kerana sudi memberi sedikit gambaran tentang situasi sukan pemotoran di Malaysia. Tapi berbalik kepada apa yang Alex tu kata tadi, beberapa nama yang beliau memetik tadi, ianya menunjukkan bahawa kita memang mempunyai bakat-bakat, namun adakah kita mempunyai ekosistem, dan seperti beliau menyatakan tadi, infrastruktur untuk memastikan bahawa bakat-bakat ini mempunyai peluang. Kerana pada saya, kebanyakan perbualan selalunya taksub kepada kita inginkan seorang juara, tetapi apa yang akan berlaku kepada juara tersebut selepas bersara. adakah industri pemotoran di negara ini mencukupi bagi seseorang tu apabila bersara mempunyai kerjaya selepas bersara, ataupun adakah beliau terpaksa patah balik dan jual spare part dan sebagainya. I mean, these are serious questions that we have to ask ourselves.
Yep, and we'll be talking about that a little later on with another one of our guest speakers. I'm interested in talking about what Alex said about our talent. Motorsports aren't just about drivers, as you were saying. We're also looking at engineers, technicians, whole teams working together to push the limits of what's possible. Harish, how important is it for Malaysia to invest in developing motorsports talent?
Yang pelaburan terhadap bakat tu bukan hanya kepada sukan pemotoran. Ianya untuk semua, daripada teknologi sehingga ke ekosistem dan sebagainya. Jadi bakat tu penting, dan kita mempunyai bakat-bakat yang pernah berkecimpung ataupun telah pun berkecimpung dalam dunia pemotoran. Sebagai contoh, Hibatullah Muhammad Fuad yang merupakan mekanik untuk Petronas Perintah racing team di MotoGP. Dan sebelum tu saya masih ingat lagi, saya pernah sempat interview Jeff O. Beliau merupakan mekanik untuk Suzuki MotoGP daripada tahun 2004 sehingga 2011. Jeff O ni datang daripada keluarga yang memang semua yang lahir dengan motor. Kerana abang Jeff merupakan Sunny O yang ramai peminat motor kenal. Beliau merupakan pemilik Sunny Cycle di Jalan Pahang, kedai motor. Dan abang Jeff dan Sunny pula yang besar pun ramai orang akan kenal, bekas juara Malaysia tahun 80-an, dan sekarang ni beliau merupakan pemilik Most Fun Gym, di mana you boleh pergi motocross. Nama beliau ialah Oh Kabeng. Jadi keluarga ni berasal daripada Penang. Tak pasti whether you can pull up the picture that I sent to you all of the whole family di rumah mereka, di mana shop lot mereka, di mana kedai tersebut merupakan taman permainan untuk adik-beradik ni. Mereka belajar bagaimana untuk membaiki motor, dan di situlah minat mereka terhadap dunia pemotoran terjelma. So kita berbalik kepada bakat tu memang kita ada ramai. Cuma seperti saya katakan tadi, adakah kita mempunyai ekosistem? Kerana apabila mereka bersara ataupun mereka dah kata cukuplah dengan MotoGP, kerana tak mudah. MotoGP you rasa shop best, tapi you just have to travel and think the travelling sometimes will kill you. Dan selepas tu apa yang boleh mereka buat?
It's true. And as you say, it's not about just producing world class drivers. It's also about nurturing the next generation of engineers, technicians, who will help shape the future of the automotive industry. Programs like the Cup Prix are essential for this kind of things. This is for grassroots development, giving young talent the platform they need to shine. So let's segue into Malaysia's role in motorsports. The Sepang International Circuit, that's been a game changer, putting Malaysia on the global map with events like F1 and MotoGP. Harish, what's your take on the legacy of Sepang, especially after the end of the F1 races in Malaysia? And be honest, did you actually have to sneak into the paddock to get that selfie with Mika Häkkinen, or was that?
No, Mika Häkkinen was actually he retired at the time, and it was actually at the in Subang. That was a separate event altogether.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, berbalik kepada legacy Sepang, yang pertama sekali ialah, jika anda merasakan bahawa Sepang tu tidak diguna pakai, anda salah, kerana Sepang tu memang pack padat. Daripada winter testing sehingga pelbagai aktiviti yang berlaku di sana.
Endurance races,
Endurance
everything.
races, car manufacturers di sini menggunakan track tersebut untuk pelbagai aktiviti. Lepas tu you've got the owners club
Yeah.
jenama-jenama punya,
all the different owners
all
clubs.
the owners club semua nak jadi F1 driver untuk setengah hari dan sebagainya. So it's packed. Yang kedua, sirkuit di Sepang memang ramai menyatakan bahawa ianya antara sirkuit yang memang terbaik di dunia. Tetapi adakah ianya telah hilang that shine selepas ianya tidak menjadi host untuk sukan F1? Mungkin. Lebih-lebih lagi apabila Singapura tiba-tiba datang muncul dengan night race mereka, street night race. The drivers are not really keen about the street night race kind of thingy because the lights and all that, but the fans love it. So yeah, then moving forward, nasib baik kita masih ada MotoGP. Tapi adakah ianya berbaloi kerana duit yang dilaburkan di dalam ikon yang begitu besar, infrastruktur yang begitu besar? Atau patutkah duit yang sama sepatutnya kita laburkan kepada sirkuit-sirkuit yang lebih kecil di merata
all around the country?
Di merata Malaysia.
That's such a great point. And the thing is, Sepang wasn't just a racetrack, right? It was also a symbol of Malaysia's ambition to compete on the world stage. At the time, it was
kita ada Sepang, kita ada LRT, kita ada
Twin
Stadium
Towers,
Bukit Jalil,
KLIA.
So
it was all around the same
part
time.
of the package lah untuk menjual Malaysia sebagai sebuah negara yang progresif, yang moden, menuju ke wawasan 2020 yang tak menjadi. So
But it's also hosted
wawasan
some
20.
It's also hosted some epic concerts like the F1 after parties and a couple of good vibes festivals.
But you know what? As they say lah, those parties and festivals are as good as the people you get lah. Kalau you can have all the parties and all the infrastructure, tapi kalau yang entertainers are not the A list punya.
Hey man, at one point Girls' Generation came over for an F1 after party.
True lah.
To our listeners, what's your most memorable moment at Sepang? Drop it in the chat, and if it involves a wild after party story, even better.
I would like to jump in.
You want to share one?
No, I want to jump in. I want to jump in on that. Okay, so when I was covering MotoGP, I covered F1. I think only 1 or 2 races, and after that, I told myself, but I started concentrating on MotoGP. Now I became close to these guys from Ducati. Nice chaps, Italians, and one of them, he is actually part of the main the principal, and he always looked at me and go like, "What is wrong with your country?" And he meant it in a good way.
Right.
I said, "Why?" So when I land, your airports are cold. When I come to your media room, it's super cold. When I go to the VIP room dekat SIC, memang
cold,
sejuk.
freezing cold.
Freezing cold. Kena pakai jaket.
Standard.
Tapi track dekat luar sana 40-41 darjah. Dia kata gila ke apa? So setiap kali dia datang, confirm. You tahu lah Mat Saleh.
But also the heat in Sepang lain.
Heat in Sepang is lain macam lah.
It's stupid hot for some reason.
Ridiculously hot. Tapi he will always come to Sepang with a cold.
Because of the change in
Because
temperature.
of the change in temperature. Setiap kali I tengok dia selalu dengan Piriton, ubat dengan tisu. So I mean I will never forget that whole craziness whereby negara kita memang negara panas, tapi
it's a country of extremes.
Dalam bangunan memang terlalu sejuk. I think
cold.
that changed up until recently, but before that it was always been like that.
No, I still feel that way sometimes. While we're waiting for the comments, let's hear from Ron Hogg, the man behind Capri, on what he's doing to keep the Malaysian two-wheel industry revving its engines. Ron, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for this opportunity to speak with you. In your eyes, as a founder, what is the role of Capri in Malaysia?
Hi, Rizal, Harish. You know, the role of Capri in grassroots programs, I think, in ensuring a sustainable motorsports ecosystem in Malaysia is very, very important. I think Capri plays many hats, if you like to know. I mean, apart from developing riders, Capri is actually an industry where we are giving opportunities to local industry players to spearhead their brands and go international. When I say this, a group like RCB, which is now an international company, started in Malaysia 20 years ago. And today they are supplying technical equipment at the highest level, even in MotoGP. So that is one instance of what Capri plays as a role in providing a sustainable ecosystem. If you look at riders itself, you're talking about junior riders going up to the highest level, and Capri is one of those platforms where these riders can excel and go further. And till to date, every single rider that we have in MotoGP or World Superbike has come from Capri. That may change in the future, but it is still a very, very important note to understand. And more importantly, when these riders retire at the end of their career, a majority of them, if not all, eventually do come back to Capri to play a certain role, whether they become team owners themselves or they become technical guys or rider coaches and stuff like that. So the role of Capri, it's not just purely about developing riders, but it's really sustaining a whole ecosystem. And if a Capri does not exist, I do not see where a majority of these people can go. I mean, a classic example would be Shahrul Yusi at that time when he retired. And similarly, now we have more riders at the highest level. And when they retire, where do they go? So I think that is something that Capri provides in the Malaysian motorsports ecosystem.
Yeah, that's the thing about this industry you've so wisely put together. It is a whole ecosystem. It's not just for grassroots developments. But should we be looking further, perhaps? Maybe more international events should be brought over too?
It's good to have international events in Malaysia, no doubts about it. It brings in tourism dollars, it brings in a lot of value. But if you're doing it just for the sake of that purpose, then that's something that we need to relook at. We've had Formula One for so many years in Malaysia, and unfortunately, we have not really seen the spin-off for Formula One to the motorsports industry. So from that perspective, I think anything done has to have a short-term, mid-term and a long-term plan. And it'll be fantastic that whatever event comes are able to meet those criteria in the short, mid and long-term plan.
Speaking of long-term, EVs have very quickly become almost the norm on Malaysian roads, especially in the Klang Valley. You can't go anywhere without seeing a BYD or a Tesla or a Cherry, and EV racing has begun to pick up some momentum as well. Is that something you're looking at?
Well, EV is always a very interesting subject, and to be very honest with you, we've looked at it maybe 6-7 years ago already about the possibility of doing something along those lines in Malaysian motorsports. And I think when the ecosystem is there and it becomes sustainable, then definitely we would be doing something along that lines. At this current moment, it is still a very, very expensive thing to touch and very difficult, especially when we talk about bikes, because the batteries are a huge constraint in terms of size and weight, and as well as hazards, because it can catch fire. So as technology progress, and I'm pretty sure if, for example, we had invested into EV racing 6-7 years ago, the technology that we will have would be outdated. So it's something that you have to really look at the market and understand the situation when the timing is right or not.
All right, thank you, Ron. We really appreciate your insights. And on behalf of Julang Podcast, thank you for building the Malaysian two-wheel motorsport industry. We have a comment. I wanted to say a couple of comments. We only have one comment from Nick Michael Imran, who says that Capri needs more eyeballs. It's such a great format. Harish, your thoughts on Capri racing?
Capri ni telah bukan setahun 2 tahun ya.
Oh yeah, more than 20 years already.
Dah berdekat. Ya. Dan ini menunjukkan bahawa entah macam mana Ron Hawk has done it, tapi he has done it and he's done it very well. Terdapat pelbagai kekangan kerana ianya bukannya popular seperti bola sepak, di mana ranking pun teruk, masih dapat 15 juta, so tambah lagi 15 juta daripada pihak swasta. These guys don't get that kind of funding, they don't get that kind of attention. Namun walaupun terdapat pelbagai kekangan, Ron tadi menyatakan tentang Syarul Yuzi, tapi semenjak Syarul Yuzi berkecimpung dalam the biggest race, which is the whole MotoGP punya series kan, we've had Zulfahmi Khairuddin, we've had Azlan Shah, Hafiq Azmi, Hafiz Shahrin, Adam Nurdin, Khairul Idham Pawi. Dan mereka ni bukan sebagai mere passenger ataupun participant, tapi kita ambil sebagai contoh kita ambil Khairul Idham Pawi, 2 podium finish dan 2 kemenangan dalam Moto3. Dia sama dengan Hafiz Shahrin, kalau tak silap saya ada 3 podium finish. Ini menunjukkan bahawa bakat tu ada, dan bakat tu menyelah dan menjelma thanks to Capri.
The existence of Capri.
Kerana ianya bagaikan okay, kita ambil konteks bola lah. When you have a local league, di situ you can ada your pool of talent, betul tak? So Capri tu merupakan liga lah.
We have a local league in football also.
I know, but okay,
anyway, it's clear that if we want to compete on a global stage, we need to have a plan, just like Ron did when he founded Capri. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find the next Malaysian racing superstar, someone who can outdrive even the most aggressive Grab driver in KL traffic.
Tapi Azlan, I nak berbalik kepada komen tadi yang menyatakan daripada Nick kan.
Yeah, it needs more eyeballs,
okay,
for
Nick
sure.
menyatakan bahawa ianya perlukan lebih attention sebab perhatian. Sebagai contoh, memang perlu. Kerana kalau kita lihat as per our conversation sebelum rancangan ni ataupun sebelum kita pergi live, menyatakan bahawa the Malay papers macam Harian Metro, Berita Harian, coverage mereka terhadap Capri tu memang mantap. The same cannot be said about the others. Mungkin orang akan kata demographic dan sebagainya, tapi pada saya, if you make it exciting enough, it doesn't hit a particular demographic. I mean, it hits everyone. I think we should not look at it daripada that kind of lens lah. Jangan melihat daripada lensa that particular demographic dan sebagainya.
In fact, you're probably excluding people from really good sports stories happening.
Betul.
In our backyard. Finally,
look. Sebagai contoh I remember there was this conversation, and it happened at an event, and this was speech given by a particular somebody, dan beliau menyatakan bahawa apabila kita bercakap tentang sukan pemotoran ni, especially motosikal, beliau menyatakan bahawa selalunya keluarga Cina tak selalunya membenarkan anak mereka naik motor kerana bahaya dan sebagainya. I think that's a very Subang Jaya kind of talk lah, kerana asal Taiping semua bermula daripada motosikal. Kalau you pergi dekat Klang ke Kampar ke Teluk Intan ke sebagai contoh, tak kira Melayu ke Cina, tak kira. So motor datang dulu. Mungkin setengah tu mereka graduate daripada motor ke kereta dengan lebih cepat lah. Namun motor comes first, dan sebelum tu basikal. So maksudnya the acceptance is there.
In the culture, right?
So the culture is there. It's a very Malaysian thing. In fact, it's a very Southeast Asian thing. Like how we see in
East Asian
Vietnam, what we see in Indonesia.
Finally, mari kita lihat ke masa depan. With the rise of electric and sustainable technologies, the world of motorsports is evolving. Harish, do you think Malaysia should focus more on electric motorsports to stay relevant? And if so, can we please call it Zapang or sambal charged?
Okay. Yang pertama sekali, I think perbualan ni tak sesuai di sini kerana you tanya rakyat Malaysia, mereka dah convince ke nak beli kereta EV? Kerana I tahu ada diehard fans dan ada pula yang mengatakan bahawa kalau I nak bangun besok pagi nak pergi ke Maman, boleh ke tahan? Ataupun I kena charge 2 jam dulu, lepas tu you understand the conversation, meaning that adakah kita benar-benar bersedia? Yang tu yang pertama. Dan yang kedua, cerita tentang electric races dan sebagainya bukan cerita baru. Seperti Ron menyatakan tadi, 6 tahun saya rasakan memang sebelum tu.
It was
a big
around.
thing, you know. I remember ramai yang menyatakan bahawa it's time for us to look at, you know, less
E-racing,
noise, less pollution dan
I remember
sebagainya.
the debates.
Tapi kalau kita lihat teknologi kereta maupun motosikal, especially dalam area elektrik, 10 tahun yang lalu dan sekarang, remember the early edition of Prius?
Yes, the Prius.
Prius, sorry. The early editions of the Prius. So it was different, correct?
Yep.
And today,
There were only two. It was the Toyota Prius and the Nissan Leaf.
yeah.
Those were the two that were
But
available.
today, you know, the technology from then and then dah berubah.
So different.
Tapi
So different.
while you and I sekarang ni bercakap tentang the peredaran daripada Prius ke BYD
For example,
hari ni, sebagai contoh, jangan kita lupa Toyota pula melaburkan duit mereka kepada hydrogen. So adakah hydrogen merupakan the future that
the
we
next
are
frontier,
we are not looking at? Jadi until and unless benda ni settle di peringkat consumer, then I think we can look at the races bit. I think Ron is right to say that untuk motosikal sebagai contoh,
Yeah, it's a bigger question.
I mean, bayangkan kalau you crash, berbau meletup ni macam main game tau, macam GTA or something like that.
It is.
So yeah.
We probably benefit more from focusing on grassroots development, regional collaboration, revitalizing Sepang as a hub for
I think
motorsports.
salah satu aspek pemotoran, sukan pemotoran yang kita telah abaikan untuk sekian lama merupakan rally.
Oh yeah.
Kerana di situlah kita mempunyai juara-juara rally seperti
Correct.
Karamjit Singh dan sebagainya.
Yeah.
Dan rally mampu menonjolkan keistimewaan tempat-tempat lokasi-lokasi yang tak begitu popular. Sebagai contoh macam di Felda di Johor, Felda di Pahang dan sebagainya. So this you show the different side of the country, which is really exciting.
Showcase it, right?
Yeah.
We have a couple of comments here.
Sure.
W-
Baik buruk.
No, good comments. Always good comments from our listeners.
Okay.
Ibrahim Studio is back in the chat, saying, can we say remote control car, aircraft race as part of motorsports industry, even the drone industry can be more exciting if it's involved in sport. I've seen some drone races. Have you?
Drone races?
Yeah,
No.
Red Bull's hosted a couple of those.
But that comment just reminded me of, do you know that Putrajaya pernah menjadi host kepada boat racing?
Yeah. Remote control boat, right?
No, bukan remote rail boat.
Oh no, well, real boats too, yeah.
I can't remember the name now. It's just slipped my mind. Tapi yes, we hosted. I think a year or two.
I mean, even Langkawi does that.
No, but this one I'm talking about specifically dekat Putrajaya.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had that, and then berbalik kepada remote control. Kita ambil contoh dekat area Ampang. Tasik,
Powerboat,
Tasik
right?
Permai or
Nick
something like that.
says
Powerboat. Yes. Thank you for that. Powerboat. Dan di Tasik Permai sebagai contoh, there is MPAJ telah membuat satu area, kawasan di mana you can do remote control racing. So, and that is a big thing because setiap minggu you dah nampak, ramai juga yang pergi untuk beriadah di sana.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We also have a comment from a Rizal Hashim
Apa khabar Rizal?
asking if we should host F1 again. I'd like to know what you think of this actually, because it was interesting to hear from Ron and from Alex.
Yeah.
They're actually kind of against it.
You know why? And I would agree because you lihat apa yang tengah berlaku di negara, terutamanya
Our neighbour.
This in recent times
Yeah.
Selalunya pengumuman dibuat tanpa the thinking
Oh, you're talking about just general.
okay. dan kita balik kepada F1. Kerana kalau pengumuman dibuat yang menyatakan bahawa okay, kita akan menganjurkan F1. So kami nak tahu, okay, you anjurkan F1, okay lah, yay. Tapi bagaimanakah ianya akan membantu industri?
How does it fit?
Dan bukan hanya industri sukan
Oh no, yeah.
industri secara menyeluruh.
Not just motorsports, automotive
Correct.
as well. Yeah.
So bayangkan kita telah menjadi host kepada sukan seperti F1 dan MotoGP dan sebagainya. Tapi ada tak sebarang detail perincian dibuat di mana kita telah untung dari segi influx of tourists dan sebagainya secara detail untuk menyatakan bahawa ini merupakan pelaburan yang memang, because always what we get is just on the surface. It's good for tourism, it's good for this. I mean, that's rhetoric lah,
You don't look at the impact on the country's branding,
Correct.
the exposure we get.
Penyaga dekat tepi, dekat Sepang dan sebagainya.
Even down to the ones that are not allowed into the into the
merchandising dan
circuit.
sebagainya.
Yeah. F1 shirts are way too expensive.
Yeah, so yang grade A pula, yang mereka jual lah. No, I mean what I'm trying to say is that everyone yang enjoy the Spilo. So untuk tanya Rizal yang tidak berada di sini tapi entah ke mana, yang tanya I don't know. For me it's very simple. Kalau pihak kerajaan ataupun sesiapalah yang nyatakan bahawa mereka ingin menganjurkan Malaysia ingin menjadi penganjur, mereka harus memberi justifikasi yang memang mantap. Dan bukan menyatakan bahawa
short
sendiri mahupun menyatakan bahawa ianya bagus untuk limpahan ekonomi dan sebagainya. Kami nak tahu nombor, angka, bagaimana plan 5 tahun, 10 tahun yang akan datang.
But I know the answer to that.
Apa dia?
Very difficult to ascertain.
Life is difficult. So yeah.
Anyway, as the last couple of comments roll in and as we wrap up, it's clear that motorsports are more than just a spectacle. They're a driving force for innovation, talent development, and brand building. And Malaysia, with its rich motorsports history and infrastructure, has a unique role to play in this global industry. I feel so. You feel so?
I mean, we can always play a role.
To our
We
listeners,
We have played a role, in fact.
to our listeners, exactly, that's the legacy. We have played a role
We
before.
have played a role.
Anyway, to our listeners, what do you think Malaysia needs to do to take motorsports to the next level? Let us know in the comments and in the chat. And remember, as the automotive industry evolves, motorsports will continue to be a catalyst for change. Who knows? The next big breakthrough in car technology might just come from a Malaysian team or driver or engineer or anything, really. Jangan lupa untuk like, subscribe dan share episod ni dengan kawan-kawan korang yang gemar sukan. Tinggalkan juga komen atau feedback pendapat korang amat kami hargai dan membantu kami untuk terus berkembang serta menjangkau lebih ramai peminat sukan di Malaysia. Thank you to the ever insightful Harish Diol.
Sama-sama dan sebelum saya mengundurkan diri, saya ingin menyatakan bahawa kalau nak berlumba di track dan bukan di jalan raya.
Yes, please be safe. We leave you with this. Life is like a race. Sometimes you're in pole position and sometimes you're stuck in traffic. Either way, keep moving forward. Courage.